You, Furley said, pointing a trembling finger at Jack. You look like a man with a guilty conscience, or a very bad haircut. Mr. Furley, Jack squeaked, his voice cracking. There's been a small Romanian misunderstanding. Chapter 2. The Romanian Ruse. The threat of eviction hung over the apartment like a guillotine. Furley was a man of principles, and his primary principle was that one should not sell a man's bed while he is still planning to sleep in it. He's going to throw us out. Janet paced the kitchen, her heels clicking a frantic rhythm. Tomorrow is the 1st of the month. We're going to be on the street, Jack. Living in a van. Or worse. Living with your mother. I have a plan, Jack said, though his eyes betrayed his terror. Furley is a bachelor, a man about town, or so he thinks, and he's obsessed with Lana Shields. Lana was their neighbor, a woman who wore silk wraps like armor and possessed a feline grace that made Jack's knees weak and Furley's heart stop. She was sophisticated, older, and had absolutely no interest in a man who wore apricot leisure suits. We throw a dinner party, Jack explained, his hands gesturing wildly. A quiet, intimate, candlelit dinner for two. We invite Lana. We tell her Jack Tripper is the chef. But when she gets here, we pivot. We set her up with Furley. She'll kill us, Chrissy said. Not if she thinks it's a chouette à la mode evening, Jack said. It's a French-Romanian gourmet experience. Very exclusive, very romantic. Furley gets the girl. We get to keep our apartment. The evening was a masterpiece of desperation. The apartment was transformed. Scented candles struggled to mask the smell of Jack's frantic cooking. Janet and Chrissy were dressed as Romanian waitresses, which mostly involved wearing too many petticoats and attempting accents that sounded vaguely like they were having strokes. Lana arrived, looking like a dream in midnight blue. Jack, darling, I hope the main course is as delicious as the chef. Jack ushered her to the table, where Furley sat, wearing a ruffled shirt that made him look like an aggressive carnation. Lana, my dear, Furley purred, leaning in so far he nearly dipped his ascot in the wine. I've been waiting for a night like this, to feel your good vibrations. Lana's expression was one of frozen horror. She looked at Jack, pleading. In Romania, Jack shouted, appearing from the kitchen with a platter, it is tradition for the chef to sit at the table, and for the waitresses too. Chrissy and Janet burst into the room, clapping their hands. Yum, 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 yum. Hey! They chanted, a frantic, rhythmic dance that involved a lot of knee-slapping. In Romania, we love to dance. It's the country of romance. Grab your partner and take a spin, then sit right down and have your din. The night descended into a fever dream of cultural inaccuracies. Furley, emboldened by 3 glasses of Romanian wine, which was actually just cheap Chianti with a splash of root beer, began to believe he was truly the Casanova of Santa Monica. Lana, trapped by her own politeness and a very strong desire to see what Jack was doing with the dessert, endured the ordeal. By midnight, the miracle happened. Furley, convinced that the trio were his best friends and cultural ambassadors, rescinded the eviction notice. You're good kids, Furley slurred, leaning against the doorframe as he prepared to head downstairs. A little weird, a little foreign, but good kids. And Lana, she loves me. I can tell. She called me a worm, which in Romania, I assume, is a term of endearment. As the door closed, Jack sank onto the sofa, covered in flour and sweat. Janet sat beside him, kicking off her shoes. We're safe, she whispered. For now, Jack replied, looking at the empty wine bottles. But I think I'm going to have nightmares about that Yum Yum song for the rest of my life. Chapter 3. The Price of Love. The peace lasted exactly 48 hours. It was the anniversary of the day Jack had moved in. To Jack, it was a reminder of how much he owed them, not just in rent, but in sanity. While cleaning, Jack found a card tucked under Chrissy's bed. He knew he shouldn't look, but the Krugers of Beverly Hills logo on the envelope was too much to resist. To the cutest and the craziest, happy 3rd anniversary. Love, Janet and Chrissy. His heart sank. Kruger's was where people went to buy diamonds. It was where movie stars bought engagement rings. If the girls were buying him something that expensive, he couldn't just give them a bouquet of carnations and a firm handshake. He needed money. Fast. Enter Larry Dallas. Larry was a man who lived in the gray areas of life, a used car salesman by trade, a hedonist by choice, and Jack's best friend by some quirk of fate. "Jack, my boy," Larry said, leaning against the bar at the Regal Beagle. "You're in luck. I have a side hustle, a professional escort service." Jack nearly choked on his beer. "A what?" "Escort, Jack. Not, escort. Sophisticated companionship. A lady comes to town, she doesn't want to go to a party alone, she calls the agency. I have a client tonight and tomorrow." "Lana Shields." Jack froze. "Lana? Yeah, but I can't do it. I have to fly to San Francisco for a car thing. Sub for me, Jack. It pays $100 a night. That's your anniversary gift money right there. I can't be a paid companion, Larry. What if the girls find out?" "They won't. Just wear a suit, look handsome, which is the hard part for you, and be charming. It's Lana. She's already crazy about you." The first night was a disaster of nerves. Jack met Lana at a high-end French restaurant, the kind where the menus don't have prices and the waiters look at you like you're something they found on the bottom of their shoe. "Jack?" Lana purred, her fingers tracing the rim of her glass. "I didn't know you were with the agency. If I'd known I could just rent you, I would have saved myself a lot of flirting." "It's strictly professional, Lana," Jack said, his collar feeling 3 sizes too small. "I'm just a sub. A replacement part." "I like replacement parts," she whispered, leaning in. He spent the night dodging her advances and praying nobody he knew walked in. But the universe has a cruel sense of humor. Midway through the second course, a pressed duck that looked far too much like it was still judging him, he saw them. Janet and Chrissy, sitting 3 tables away, treating themselves to a girls' night out because they thought Jack was at a cooking seminar. Jack dived under the table. "Jack?" Lana asked, looking at the empty chair. "I'm looking for my fork," Jack's voice muffled from beneath the white linen. "It's a very special fork. Romanian." He spent the rest of the dinner navigating the restaurant like a ninja, moving between the shadows and the dessert carts. He managed to escape, but the guilt was eating him alive. He was a call boy. He was a man for hire. When he finally got home, he found the girls waiting for him. They weren't angry. They were sympathetic. "Jack," Janet said, her voice soft. "We know. Larry told us." "He did?" Jack felt the blood drain from his face. "He told us you were having a confidence crisis," Chrissy said, hugging a pillow. "That you hadn't had a date in 2 weeks, and you felt unlovable. So you went out with that older woman to feel desired again." Jack blinked. Larry had lied to cover for him, but the lie was almost worse than the truth. "Oh, poor baby," Chrissy said, standing up and wrapping her arms around him in a way that made his heart skip several beats. "We're going to make you feel loved, Jack. We're going to smother you with affection." For the next hour, Jack was in heaven and hell. The girls pampered him, rubbed his shoulders, and told him how handsome he was. It was everything he'd ever dreamed of, built on a foundation of complete humiliation. But then, the truth came out. The anniversary card, it wasn't for him. It was for the Purcells, their neighbors who were celebrating 3 years of marriage. "I sold my soul for a neighbor's card?" Jack wailed, burying his face in his hands. "Actually," Janet said, smiling as she pulled a small box from her pocket, "we did get you something. For being the best roommate and the worst liar in Santa Monica." Inside was a simple, elegant watch. "So you can be on time for your next cooking seminar," Chrissy giggled. Jack looked at them, the 2 women who made his life a constant, beautiful chaos. "I don't deserve you guys." "We know," they said in unison. Chapter 4. The Shadow of the Law. Just as the trio settled into a comfortable rhythm of domestic bliss and mild deception, a new shadow fell over Adobe Lane. 2 men, in identical gray suits and identical grim expressions, arrived at the door. They didn't have Furley's flair or Larry's sleaze. They had badges. "FBI," the taller one said. "Special Agent Roth. This is Agent Banning. We're looking for a Jack Tripper." Janet and Chrissy froze. In their minds, Jack was guilty of many things: bad puns, leaving his socks in the sink, and lying about his dating life. But federal crime seemed a bit out of his league. "Is he in trouble?" Janet asked, her voice trembling. "We just need to ask him some questions regarding his association with a Mr. Benjamin Miller," Banning said.